Hey everybody, big welcome to my channel. If you've never been here before, my name's Mike and I make a bunch of random shitty videos, and today's shitty video is going to be how to take the intake manifold off on a 2015 5-liter F-150. This process is actually going to be the same for a bunch of years, because it's going to be a very similar process. And I'm only making this video because normally before I take on a project, I like to watch somebody else do it and get the idea of what I'm doing. And I actually couldn't find any videos for this. I saw some people with like installing performance ones, but they didn't show you the process of getting the old one off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I am going to mention that I am not a mechanic, just a pretty handy dude. And then the other thing is why am I taking this off? And that is for the runners, the intake runners, which are these two flapper systems that come in here. And they are failed, specifically on bank 2, which is driver's side. I've already had this apart, and I tried to use some JB Weld to JB Weld a little part, but once I put it all back together, it didn't really work. And before we get into this, I'm going to give you a caution that some of the wires on the back are going to be a real pain in the ass to get in and unplug. I won't be able to get the camera in. You're just going to have to kind of follow along and try to do whatever I can explain to you for how to do it. The wires come attached to the block with these little connectors that are a pain in the ass sometimes. And I personally, before I get into this, I'll tell you that I actually had pulled this off a week and a half ago and then put it back in, and then the truck wouldn't start again until today. And I sat there troubleshooting, going like, what the hell? Like, how could I take this apart and put it back together and it not go? What I ended up doing was ripping the one wire out of the crank sensor connector, which caused it to, the crank sensor to obviously be disconnected. And if you don't have a crank sensor, you won't get spark or fuel. So luckily a Facebook group helped me figure that out. But so I just wanted to explain why we're doing what we're doing, and let me get set up. But first I'm going to tell you that you're going to want a couple of tools. Let me get set up and then I'll come right back. Okay, so getting to supplies, most importantly, you're going to want a blanket to lay here, because this truck was engineered to hurt you when you're trying to lean into the engine compartment. So I get this blanket, fold it over in half, and that means that I can lay in here, because you're going to have to lay across the engine. A pair of vice grips for pinching a couple hose clamps, flathead screwdriver for taking off the air intake, one 8mm and one 10mm socket, and then you can use a short extension or long, doesn't really matter. And to put it back together, you're going to need an 1 inch-pounds torque wrench, which you can grab off Amazon if you need to. That's what I did. So let's get into it. I also should have mentioned that you're going to need a stool to step on, obviously, if you're going to be trying to work up in the engine compartment. So back that off. So very first thing I do is take off the intake, which is real easy. Right here, not the intake, sorry, the air intake. Make sure we're speaking of the right one. Just back that off a little bit. A couple of clips over here. I'm already missing my clip here. At some point I've lost it, so whatever. Mine just going to pull off like that. Yours will probably not. Then over here there's these connectors. Let me show you how they work. Okay, this little connector here, all you do is push it forward, and as you're pushing it forward, hopefully you guys can see that all right, you just lift up. So push forward and pull up, no problem. And let me set this back up. And we got this one right here, which is the same process as the other one. Just somewhere on there is a clip that can be, oh actually that one doesn't even need to come off anyway, so don't even bother with that one. Wasn't thinking. Pull this like this. You're going to have to do a little finagling here to get this out. You do not have to remove the top coolant line. Get that out of the way. Well, we're in here getting shit out of the way. Let's go ahead and pull off the fuel rail covers. They just lift off. 1, 2. No problem. Stick them there. And next we will go with this guy right here. So right here, push the tab, pull that. My tab is already broken because I break all the Ford tabs. And then this one, it's a little tricky. You got to try to get your fingers under both sides and push up like that. Hopefully you saw that both sides while pushing up. That allows me to pull that out. And you can just pull it out of the way like that. Then we've got, let's go ahead and take the this off here. This throttle body. Just loosen these off. I don't have an electric ratchet. I do have air tools, but I don't really use them. Not a big deal just to ratchet these off anyway. So, and this truck did come with a perfect bolt holder, which we'll discuss in a minute. While I'm doing this, I'll tell you that the torque specs for the intake when you reinstall is 89 inch-pounds. I originally did mine to 89 foot-pounds because I'm an idiot and I didn't read. I asked ChatGPT and I just jumped to foot-pounds, as most things I deal with where I'm torquing something are foot-pounds. And so without even thinking about it, that's what I did. And I ended up snapping a bolt into the head, which luckily, because it was not a rusty bolt, it was actually a fairly simple repair for that. I just sat a nut. Well, first of all, I put some painter's tape over, like this is once the intake's all off, I put painter's tape over all the holes on the intake and around the fuel line. Make sure I had everything taped up good. Then I set a little nut over the snapped bolt, and then I tack welded it, the nut to the snapped portion of the bolt. And because it is aluminum block, it doesn't really stick to the aluminum anyway, so it's no problem. The weld just goes right to the from the nut to the broken bolt. And then I was able just to throw a 10 mil socket on it and pretty well just get it out right by hand. But okay, there we are. We've got intake throttle body off. So I put these 4 here. Next, we're going to get some vice grips. My truck came with this already like this. I don't know if yours will or not. I'm going to show you here. This top one was right where it is. Like, it was actually higher up. It's not on the nipple. I don't know if it's supposed to have 2 or why they had it way up here, but anyway, it wasn't. So only this one's actually holding it on. So we're going to go ahead and get that off of there. Vice grips right here, pinch those, and then while holding it, I'll just kind of wiggle the wire a bit. That's right, I said wiggle your wire. And now I've gone and pushed it a little closer than I would have liked to the thing, but it's okay. I'm not getting a good bite on it. That's unfortunately what's going on, but there. Give that a pull. Leave that. Pull it out of the way. Then we're going to go ahead and remove this right here. Same process as before with the other side. Push these and this one off the, I think it's a PVC valve. And this, squeeze it out. This sits right here. That's where it's meant to go. So we are making progress. From here, we can go ahead and remove the fuel injector powers. Oops. So these you just grab on the front there, and there's a little pinch tab. Pinch that, pull, pinch, pull, pinch. Sometimes they can be a little more difficult. Pinch, pull, and one more, pinch, pull. All right, and then we go over to this side, same thing. These ones run in the opposite direction, but not too hard to get at. And this thing should be approximately, if you have both hands available, maybe 15-20 minutes to get off. I think shop time or something, it calls for like an hour and a half or something for on off. I gotta set this down. Ow. Okay, I got the last connector out of there. So we're gonna have a bunch of wire connectors to undo at the back, but I think it's easier to get rid of the fuel rail first. So to do that, I'm gonna show you that basically it's these 4 10 mils. We're gonna undo those, and then we'll give it a lift, which is gonna release all the injectors. And then we're going to undo this clip, but we're going to put a towel under it. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't actually know, but I believe that the torque on these is probably the same as the intake manifold bolts, so that's what I did. With my little torque wrench after everything was said and done, but so Ford, I guess, has done away with these. What I'm going after here is because of this intake runner. It appears that on the newer models of the 5 liter they've done away with that. They don't do that anymore, which is for the best. These ones are long. It's easy to separate the two, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. Yeah, these are a problem part, let's say, and they do not sell parts for the intake. They make you purchase the whole intake. Now, dealer pricing here in Canada is about $1,200 plus tax. So once you're lubed up and you're taxed, It's you know, like whatever, 1,400 bucks say. Amazon price is like 600 bucks with free shipping in a couple of days. Now, it is not going to be the factory Ford part. It is going to be China's top quality. But for me, the way I look at it, this truck has 360,000 kilometers. I don't know how long it's going to last. I can't see it being worth adding so much like money into. Okay. So, time for the fuel line. I'm going to bring the camera down and show you this so you see it. I have to use two hands to do this because there's basically two different prongs on this that you've got to lift up on at the same time to make this work. So I'm going to be setting the camera down to do that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap a cloth around it first, because this truck has no Schrader valve. If you don't know what that is basically the little thing on your tire that you fill up air with. That's a Schrader valve. This truck doesn't come with that for the fuel rail like many vehicles. So you relieve the pressure on this just by splitting this line. Is what it is. You're going to spray fuel everywhere. Let's get set up and do that. And let's give it a pull. And so I'm going to cover this. You guys aren't going to see it, but I'm going to cover that around there and then pull the line. As long as I didn't re-snap it in, which I did. Make sure you don't. Okay. And that just takes the pressure from the squirt. You're going to get gas all over your engine. There's not much you can do. Okay. Hopefully you guys have a decent angle there for what I'm doing now. So all this can just kind of move to the side a little bit. And then this just kind of, you might have to give it a bit of a pull, but this will come out. This is your fuel rail with injectors. Be careful with it. Okay. Now, I need the long one. I forgot to show you guys a tool, but something like this, you can use a large pry bar or something. Once we have all the bolts undone on manifold, we're going to need something just to give it a pop up, and I'm going to show you that when it's time. So in my case, I've got a 10 mil here because of the one that I snapped. This is just a replacement that the store had that was the same length and thread. The rest of them are all going to be 8 mil, so 110, the rest are 8 mil. And if you are fixing this and putting it back together and running it on the same day, you should really have a hose or a bucket of water once everything's back together. Give your engine a rinse because it is going to be soaked in gas. Alright, so now we're switching over to an 8mm. We're losing daylight, so I got to try to be quick on this. So essentially there are 6 bolts for the intake manifold and 4 for the fuel rail that also holds down the intake. So I know you guys can't see me here, but if you were in here, like if you're doing this for yourself, there's no question about which bolts it is. It's super easy. It's the only bolts that are there, so don't worry about watching. I think this one got cross-threaded because it shouldn't be this hard to get out. Let's give her. So this is not a bad job for any backyard mechanic. I think pretty well anybody can do this. I'll tell you that these bolts do not come out of the intake manifold, so don't bother trying to spin them out. The only one that came out was the one that I broke because I had to cut it out. These are, I don't know the word for it, but these bolts are affixed to this, so they only come part way out. I'll show you that in a minute. Once we get these all loosened up, so you just loosen these off until they are flopping around. Like they will flop around without coming out. Once again, it'll make a lot more sense when you're doing it. You're like, oh yeah, I see what you mean, because they just don't come out all the way. Now, let's see here. This connector here, I don't know what her problem is. She's a bitch. I loosened this. I used the vice grips, and I cannot get that hose to come off of there. So I didn't actually remove my intake from the truck. I left it connected by that hose. But to swap it out, obviously I have to. So I'm going to try the other end of it, which is on the back of the intake, because I can't really cut the hose. There's not really any spare. Okay, so that is done. Now, I was saying about the pry bar. Let me get this. So my intake's already been off, so I'm not really gonna have any problem with getting it off. I already know that. But for you, you're gonna want to come in here and just kind of gently lift up. Try not to go crazy if you're not, you know what I mean, if you're trying not to crack it. Just take your time and try to, like, you know, work it free. But something like this is going to make life so much easier than just trying to lift it up. Okay, now that I've got everything loosened off, you're gonna basically, you don't have to remove this hose, but you're just gonna make sure you're pulling it forward once this is free, and lift up, and then give it a bit of a pull towards you. Now, gentle on the wires. You don't want to do what I did, remember? So I'm just trying to look in here to see if it's what I thought, which it probably is. So, like I said, I can't really show you the wire connectors. All you can do is work your way around, feeling and removing any that you find. so that has failed. It's not staying connected properly. So that, let's see, I'm going to continue on doing some wires here to the best of my ability, and then I will be back. Okay, sorry guys, I couldn't show you that. The intake is off, and the hose I was saying about the rear, remember when this one didn't work? Here was the rear, came right off. That was easy as could be. So whatever, you can do whichever one you want, but that was easy. Here are all our wire connectors that you've got. So I'll tell you how many you've got. You've got, no, that one's not. So you got 1, 2, 3, you got those 3, and then these 2 which go to the actuators, which I'm going to show you in a second. Yeah, let's have a look. So this is the underside, and what we were looking for was, although it's kind of bothersome now because it actually seems like it's working. Here's from the actuator, and it's supposed to make these flow like that, and it's actually doing it. So like when I said it snapped, this little rod right here, hopefully you guys can see it, if you pop this off, that rod had snapped off inside here, and that's what I put the JB weld in to try to attempt a repair. And the engine was still clickety click clacking, so I thought it didn't work, because originally this was just flopping around, if you can see that in there. But it does seem like it's working, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's working, because like I don't know if these are holding. These are vacuum actuators, and I know that rod's broken anyway, so with the rod being broken, I think it's just better to replace it. Let's get a screwdriver in there and see. For the other one, I don't know which way it goes, but yeah, somehow this one, oh, yeah, push down. Same thing though, it is seemingly working, but sorry for the weird angles there. So it kind of sucks spending 600 bucks or 700, 800, whatever with tax on something that may in fact be working, but I really don't know. All I know is I get a really bad clicking noise, and it's not from the cam phasers because it's in the back where this is. So from the best of my knowledge, I think it's something back here causing those to click clack. And if I'm wrong, well, I guess I waste 800 bucks. Because I think I'm just going to order it and be done with it. So I don't think I'm going to bother with a reinstall video, because ultimately it is just the exact same process but reverse, with the exception of the torque. So remember, 89 inch-pounds on your little Inchima wrench. I don't think I brought my Inchima wrench out here, but I'll show you. Oh shit, we got copyrighted music, so nah. Anyway, let's go back outside quickly. So this was like 25 bucks or 30 bucks, I don't know, something like that anyway, on Amazon. It's not as good as like a real one, because it's just a very subtle click in the handle, versus my big one, which is really gives you a click like that. But anyway, whatever. So hopefully one day this video helps somebody. I know it's not that entertaining for most people, but if you're somebody that needed to do this and wondered how you do it, now you know. That's it. I'm sorry I couldn't get you a better video of the clips. It's just, for removing the wires, it's just impossible to get in there and do that. But other than that, for me anyway, the first time I took this off, these were all covered in shit. The surfaces here, the mating surfaces. So I stuck a paper towel in each of them, and I don't jam it in there, but I get it in there, and then I use brake clean and a wire brush to clear the mating surfaces before putting the intake manifold back on. So you might want to consider that. And then yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave me a like. If you have any comments or questions, you can leave it down below. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic, so I don't know how much help I can be, but I'll definitely give it my all. And best of luck to you. Thanks for watching.